Over the years, I've gotten questions about lighting situations, and the most common ones I wanted to talk about. And this is backlighting. You can see the light on the back of my hand is very bright. And one of the things that you can run into is if you tilt the lens up too far, you get this what's called lens flare. And this is the light coming into the lens. Some photographers really like this and shoot for this. But more than likely, you're going to run into a situation that looks more like this, where the light comes in. You didn't want it to come in. It creates this milky look and kills the color. Simple fix for this is to put your hand over the lens. Here I show it, but typically you wouldn't show your hand, so it blocks the light from coming in. The other thing you can do is have a really good lens shade. Does the same thing. And anytime you're shooting a wide angle lens, you're going to run into this, so be looking for that. That's lens flare. Okay, and so the other thing outside that I get questions on is what's called ghosting. And basically, this is two exposures in one. The first exposure was the flash, and the second exposure is the ambient light coming in. It's too slow a shutter speed. This was shot around 1 second. And so you get two images in one, okay? And that's called ghosting. Okay, now inside, in this case, it's a combination of lens flare and ghosting. You got light coming in from the window behind. I might mention, don't shoot with a window behind somebody because this is what you're going to run into. So keep the window behind you, not in front of you, and you won't get this flare. But in this case, the flash also went off, so you got some ghosting too. And so in addition to the milky look, you get this blur look because at 1 second, which this was shot at, you can't hand hold the camera steady enough, and so if the person moves or you move, you get this blur look. Okay, so I'm going to tell you the fix on this in a minute, but just want to talk about the program modes, and actually one or two of the modes is going to be the fix, but the number one mode I use is Aperture Priority AV mode on Canon, and this gives you more control because I can set one specific aperture, and to get it like it's called bokeh. It's kind of a cool look, but anyway, the other thing it does, especially in low light situations, is it allows too much light to come in. So you have to kind of know what you're doing when you're using this. It's mostly a problem in low light. Okay, and the other one that is that I want to talk about is this one here. This is time value or shutter priority mode, and you use this mode when you want to stop action. So you can set the shutter speed, and the camera automatically do the aperture for you to get the correct exposure. So it's also a situation where it allows a lot of light to come in. Again, you got to know how you're using it. Typically outside in bright sun, it's not going to be a problem. But unless you set the time too slow, okay, you could do that. And that's kind of the creative part of it. Those two modes are more for the person that is more creative and knows what they want. Okay, so those are the kind of couple modes you got to be careful of. And the fix is to go to P mode as one of the modes. In P mode, the camera does a lot more thinking for you. In this case, it's not going to let a whole lot of light come in. It's going to know when you turn the flash on, and so it's going to really limit ghosting problems specifically. And the other one, which is probably, I'm sorry, let's go to, it's called Scene Intelligent Auto mode, and it's better known as the green zone mode. But the camera does all the thinking for you. Even if the subject moves, it'll start tracking the subject. It does, it does the focus. It does the focus points. It does the ISO. It does everything for you. So I suggest, and I even use it if I need to. If If I have a bunch of settings on the camera and all of a sudden somebody starts moving, or there's a quick picture I got to take, I just turn it to this mode and let the camera do all the thinking for me. But that's going to solve a lot of your problems in low light situations. And then keep a good lens shade on the camera outside, and you should be good to go.